Very good morning. In today's class, we will see about cell cycle. So, what is cell cycle? What are the different phases of cell cycle? We will discuss in today's concept. So, watch until the end so that you will get a clear idea about all the phases of cell cycle. So, this is VC from VC's Academy. Let's go to the class. So, coming to the first one, cell cycle was first described by Howard and Pelc in the year 1953. In the year 1953. So, if we see scientifically, the sequence of events which occur by a cell duplicates its genome and synthesizes other cell content to eventually divide into two daughter cells is termed as cell cycle. Even though the definition is lengthy, but it gives a good explanation about cell cycle. So, if you see this, cell cycle was first described by Howard and Pelc. Scientifically, the sequence of events which occurs by a cell duplicates its genome and synthesizes other cell content to eventually divide into two daughter cells is termed as cell cycle. Let's go into the other concepts of the cell cycle. So, what are the phases of cell cycle? We can see the diagrammatic representation of cell cycle here. A cell cycle has two phases. Majorly, if you see the phases of cell cycle, they are of two phases. They are interphase and M phase, or M phase is also called as dividing phase. So, cell cycle occurs on an average time period of 24 hours. So, in our bits we will get that what is the average time period, or the time duration for cell cycle is 24 hours. Interphase lasts for 10 to 20 hours, depends upon the organism or where it occurs. And M phase lasts for 1 hour. M phase means mitotic phase, or dividing phase. And coming to interphase. So, what is interphase? Interphase is the period between the end of one cell division to the beginning of the next cell division. So, interphase can be termed as the period which is between two cell divisions, one at the one closes and the next starts. The time between these two from ending to the next beginning is called as interphase. It is also called as inter-mitotic phase, or sometimes it is also called as a resting phase or preparation phase. So, interphase can also be called as inter-mitotic phase or resting phase or preparation phase. During this phase, cell prepares itself for both cell growth and DNA replication. So, what is the importance of interphase here? So, in interphase, cell prepares itself for both cell growth and DNA replication. It lasts for 90 to 96%, that is more than 95% of cell cycle is with interphase. So, if you take 100% of cell cycle, more than 95% of the cell cycle consists of interphase. And coming to other stages, interphase has substages also. So, what are the substages here? G1 phase, G0 or G0 phase, S phase, and G2 phase, M phase. So, what are the phases we have? So, interphase has substages like G1 phase, G0 phase, S phase, G2 phase, and M phase. So, M phase can also be called as mitotic phase. So, it is continued by interphase. And in M phase, we have cytokinesis also. Coming to G1 phase, what happens in G1 phase? It is the primary growth phase of the cell. So, what is the primary growth phase? G1 phase is called primary growth phase of the cell. In this phase, the centriole divides and there is no change of DNA content in the cell. In this phase, there is a wide actions taken place, like involvement of in the synthesis of major molecules like RNA, proteins, lipids, nucleotides, ATP, etc., and multiplication of organelles. So in G1 phase, what is G1 phase is also called as? It is called as primary growth phase of the cell, and the centriole divides during this phase. So what happens here? Firstly, the centriole divides, and then we can see that there is no change occurs in the DNA content of the cell, and in this phase the involvement of synthesis of major molecules occurs. What are the major molecules? Like RNA, proteins, lipids, nucleotides, ATP, etc., and multiplication of organelles which are present in the cell. This phase is also called as post-mitotic gap phase. G1 phase is called post-mitotic gap phase. G0 phase or G0 phase, it is also called as an extension of G1 phase, and this is also called as quiescent phase. So we will see what is this. In this phase, the cell neither divides nor synthesis of organelles takes place, but its metabolic activity continues. So it is also called as a dormant phase. Cells present in this phase function as reserve cells, and that which can join the cell cycle anytime. So this phase is very prominent phase, which is also called as quiescent phase or dormant phase. In this phase, the cells neither divides nor synthesis of organelles takes place, but they are metabolically active. Coming to S phase. S phase is also called as synthesis phase, and in this phase the cell synthesize a replica of its genome, that is DNA replication occurs along with the synthesis of histone proteins, which ultimately results into the duplication of chromosomal material. So S phase is also called as synthesis phase, and in this phase what happens? The cell synthesize a replica of its genome, that is the DNA replication occurs along with the synthesis of histone proteins, which ultimately results into the duplication of chromosomal material. A cell normally proceeds into mitosis once it has entered the S phase. So S phase, if a cell enters into the S phase, then it proceeds to mitosis phase. Coming to G2 phase. G2 phase is also called as pre-mitotic gap phase. Why? Because it occurs before the mitotic phase. The period after DNA synthesis is the G2 phase or second gap phase. G1 is called as gap 1 phase or first gap phase. Here G2 is second gap phase, don't get confused. G1 is post-mitotic, G2 is pre-mitotic. It is the gap between DNA synthesis and next division. So what is the gap between DNA synthesis and next division is G2 phase. This particular phase is spent in synthesizing molecules other than DNA which are required for cell division. This particular phase is having a uniqueness, is that is it is spent in synthesizing molecules other than DNA which are required for cell division. Example, it will be easy for you if you understand with an example. RNA and proteins, mitochondria and other organelles replicate chromosomes and condense, and microtubules begin to assemble to form spindles. So spindles and all comes in mitotic phase. So for that the preparatory phase occurs here, like RNA and proteins, mitochondria and other organelles replicates. chromosomes and becomes condensed, and microtubules begin to assemble to form spindle. Coming to M phase or dividing phase. What is M phase or dividing phase? So following the interphase, the cells enter the M phase or mitotic phase. In interphase, all the three steps goes like G1, S, G2, sometimes G0 phase, which is called as resting phase. All these three sections of stages are crossed, and the cell now enters the phase called M phase or mitotic phase. M phase includes the actual cell division. So M phase is the phase where the perfect or the clear cell division occurs. It orderly involves the distribution of cell organelles and various micromolecules to the daughter cell. It orderly involves, so it occurs in a sequential manner in the distribution of cell organelles and various micromolecules to the daughter cells.